Hi there, welcome to Social Robotics Talk. Now that we have installed ROS and configured our environment, we can get started with learning what ROS is. When you start your introduction to ROS, there is a lot of new terminology that you will come across. So for example, you will hear about package, process, executables, nodes, publisher, subscribers, and a lot of other things. So in this today's lecture, we will focus on some of that, and in the subsequent lectures, we will cover the rest of it. By the way, what you see here is not a comprehensive list of all of the terminology that we might need to know when we learn about ROS, but this is just the fundamental ones that we must know. Before I go into the workings of ROS, I do want to show you that tutorials for ROS are organized here on their web page. They have really good tutorials. I encourage you to walk through them one by one because you will learn a lot by just getting your hands dirty. And then these are beginner tutorials, and you can make all the way to advanced tutorials and really become a pro in ROS 2. But today we are going to take a baby step. We're going to work through some of the tutorials that are in the beginner section. So if we go back here, let's go through some of the terminology first. So the first thing is a package. A package is a way to organize software in ROS. So basically, let's say you want to have a functionality to move the robot autonomously from one point to the other point. So that's called a navigation. So you can collect all the pieces of the softwares and everything that is needed to have a navigation functionality where the robot is going to go from point A to point B autonomously. So you can collect all of the piece of code that is required to make that happen into something what we call a package. So just to give you an example, so here you will see a snippet from a package called TurtleSim, which is a basic package that we will use today in our tutorials. So as you can see, in this package you will see a package manifest, which gives you the information about the package, and then CMake files, the source files, the messages, configuration files, or everything that's needed basically to make this functionality work, whatever is the intended functionality of that particular package. So that's really what package is, and we can install packages in ROS. And then next we go to something called process or executable. So process or executable, you might be already familiar with this term if you are in software engineering. So basically this is a software program that you can run. You have an executable for it and you can run this program. Now inside this executable is something that we have. It is called a node. So node it plays a very central role in the ROS world. So what node really is, it's a modular unit of software that does exactly one thing. So for example, in the installation lecture, we tested our installation with a demo code where we started two nodes. One node was called a listener, second node was called a I believe it was called a publisher, maybe. I don't remember the exact name, but one node was publishing some data and the other code was listening to that data. So in those cases, if we take an example of a listener node, which the code you can find here, so it's a very simple piece of code. So this node does exactly one thing. It basically listens to a certain topic basically. So that's just an example of what node is. Again, it's just a basic unit of software, a modular unit of software that is responsible for doing exactly one thing. So let's close it out. So then you can basically have more than one node in a process or an executable. So now we understand what package is, what a process is, and what a node is. Now, node has a lot of things in it. So basically, all of these things that you see mentioned here are described in a node because you need these things for node to do its function. Okay, so I'll stop here and now let's walk through the tutorials. So the first thing, if we look at the tutorials here, so we are going to today cover the tutorials that are uh, mainly here using TurtleSim ROS2, understanding nodes and understanding topics. So this is going to be the focus of today's lecture. So first of all, in order to get started with the tutorial, you need to install a package. So the package that we are going to install today is going to be TurtleSim. And you can just type this command in your terminal. So just start your terminal and then copy paste this line in here and just run it. So this will install TurtleSim package on your machine. In my case, I already have it installed, so I'm just going to skip this. But before we start these tutorials, I want to share with you a very powerful command. It's basically nothing but just ROS2 and help. So this is going to give you all the commands that you really need to know if you want to interface with ROS2. So for example, here, these are all the commands available. Like if you want to know more about actions, some of these terms are again not going to be familiar with you because we haven't discussed them, but just to give you an example, the package, right? So now if I want to know what are the commands associated with package, so I can just say ROS2 and then I can say package and then I can say give me more information about this package, and it's going to tell you that you can use all of these commands. You can create a package, you can get a list of executables or processes that are part of a package, and all of these things. So let's just use one of these commands. So basically we have already installed the TurtleSim package. So now I want to get a list of all the executables that are part of the TurtleSim package. So let's use that. So ROS2, and then we are going to say package, and then I'm going to say executable, and then I'm going to mention the name of the package that I am interested in, TurtleSim, and let's see what we get. So it gives us a list of executables that are part of the package called TurtleSim. So really what I want to share is that you don't really have to remember all of these command line tools. Anytime you want to introspect, you can simply just use this command called ROS to help, and from there you can go into all of these deeper and then find a command that you're looking for and do whatever you want to do. Okay, so now we have installed this package called TurtleSim, and this package has 4 executables in it. And these executables, again, another word, process. So these processes, each of these processes is going to contain nodes. So they can contain either just one node or maybe more than one node. And it's also possible for a process to, or an executable to not have any node in it. Okay, so now let's just clear this out. And I do want to see a list of executables because I'm going to run one of these executables. So before we start now going deeper, let's understand what is TurtleSim. What does this package do? So this package is just a basic package. TurtleSim is just a simulator, and in that simulator, when you start that simulator, you will see a turtle, which you can think is just a small simple robot, and then you can do whatever things you want to do with that turtle and in that simulator. So it's just a package that helps you get started with ROS2. So now we are going to start a node. We are going to run a node which is going to fire up the simulator. So first of all, we need to know which one of these executables we need to run. So in this case, we know from this tutorial that if we run this node, or if we run this executable called turtlesim node, that is the one that contains a node to start the simulator. So we're just going to run the executable. So the command is ROS2 run, and then we're going to mention the name of the package, turtlesim, and then we are going to mention the name of the executable that you want to run. So in this case, we want to run this executable called turtlesim node. Copy, and then let's just paste it here, and this is going to bring up a simulator. Okay, let's just make sure that this does not go behind our screen, so we'll just say stay on the top. So this is a turtle. You can think of this as just being a robot in a simulator. Now, what can we do with this robot or with this turtle? We can actually move it around. For that, we need to start a second node, which is going to do the function of actually moving this turtle around in the simulator. So one of those nodes is I should say executable. So this is actually one of the changes that they made between ROS1 and ROS2. In ROS1, there wasn't anything that was called executable and the nodes in it. You just had a node. So sometimes I tend to confuse the two, but just remember these are executables. So we are going to run another executable called turtle teleop key, which contains a node which allows you to move this turtle around. So for that, we want to leave this terminal as is because the node is running here. So we are going to create another terminal, and we are going to run the second executable to run the node that's inside it in a second terminal. So again, in order to run an executable, we use this command called ROS2 run, and then we mentioned the name of the package, and then we mention the name of the executable that you want to run. So let's just copy that, and then let's just paste that here, and then let's just run this. So here, what this turtle teleop key does, essentially the node inside this does, is basically you can move the keys up, down, left, right keys on your keyboard, and then that will actually move this robot around. So basically, this node is taking the input from the keyboard and passing it on to another node and making it move. So let's just move some keys. Okay, just play around. Nothing fancy here, I'm just moving a bunch of keys, and the turtle is moving. So that's what this node does. So now we have seen the function of two nodes in two different executables. Now let's see what else we can do. So if you want to, you can again try another node. So maybe let's say you want to see what this does, draw x square. So basically, as the name says, this executable is supposed to move this turtle around in a square shape. That's what it would do. So you don't really need this particular executable to take the commands from your keyboard. You don't need that because that functionality is already taken care of by the node. It's going to just move this turtle around in a square shape. So you can run that as just a test. Okay, now we have these two nodes running, and we're going to keep it simple. I'm not going to start any other nodes here because I want to just introduce the basics in this tutorial. So these are the two commands. Now if you want to understand the details of a node, so let's say you want to understand what this node is publishing, what this node is subscribing, Publishing, subscribing means the communication. So from this we have seen that there is some communication happening, right, between these two nodes, because this node is the one that spawned a turtle and opened up a simulator, but then this node is the one that is actually making this turtle move around. So there is definitely some communication that is happening between these two. So to understand that communication, we need to understand what are the different communication interfaces available in ROS. So from the slides that we saw, there are actually 3 different ways you can implement communication in ROS. So one of those ways is called topics, and the topics contain publishers and subscribers. So topics, think of it as a bus, and bus has a name, so each topic is going to have a name, and then some node is going to publish message onto that topic, and then some another node can just take the information which is basically subscribing to that topic to do something with it. So this is one way to communicate between nodes in ROS. And the second way is called using services, and you will have a server and a client. And the third way is called actions. Again, you have a server and a client. So today we are going to not cover services or actions. We are only going to cover one way to communicate in ROS, which is using topics. And the topics has 2 parts to it. So there's some node that is going to publish some data, some message, and that node, it acts as a publisher, and then there is a node that is going to take that information from the topic, basically listen to the topic, or you can say subscribe to the topic, and that node is going to be called a subscriber. So that's really what we're going to see today. In fact, that's what's happening in the turtle sim, just now what we saw. So let's go back to our terminal, and I'm going to again split my screen because I want to keep these 2 nodes running, so I'm going to leave them as is. So I am going to now try to learn more, like what is the turtle sim node. Okay, so before we are able to get deeper into the node, we need to actually know the name of the node. So as you recall, what these 4 things are here, turtle sim node, these are executables. So these are not the name of the node, these are the name of the executables, and these executables contain nodes. So first of all, we need to get the name of the nodes that are associated with this and this. So first we are going to use a command called ROS2. We need to get a list of running nodes that are actively running in our terminals right now. So we are going to use a command called ROS2 node and list. So just give me a list of all the nodes that are actively running, and then it returns that actively there are 2 nodes running, and the name of the node is 2 nodes is teleop turtle, and the name of the other node is turtle sim. So basically, as you can probably decipher, the turtle sim node is associated with the executable turtle sim node, and the teleop turtle is associated with the executable called turtle teleop key. That's just, but just we just some basic, you can decipher that. Okay, all right, so now let's try to learn more about these 2 nodes. So there is a command called ROS2 and node info. So this command gives you a lot of information about what is associated with each of the node in the ROS2 system. So all you need to know is you need to know the name of the node, which we already know. So now let's just type here ROS2 node info, and then let's give it the node name teleop. So let's do the turtle sim first. So let's just do this, and okay, so it gives you a bunch of stuff here. Before we get into what's in this, let's also try to learn more about the second node that's running. So again, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to say ROS2 node info, and this time I'm going to type this node. Okay, so once again, I'm going to go back and reiterate that these are the names of the executables. A turtle sim is a package, and there are 4 executables: draw square, mimic, and these 2. But the nodes associate that are part of these executables can have different names. So in this case, the node that is part of the executable called turtle sim node is called turtle sim, and the node that is part of the turtle teleop key executable is called teleop turtle. Okay, now let's go and try to read what is in these 2 nodes. So here, for the turtle sim, when you read through it, it's going to tell you the subscribers. So basically, it will tell you all the topics that this particular node subscribes to, and then publishers, it's going to give you all the topics that this node publishes, and then it is going to give you like all these services that this node acts as a server for, and all the services that this node acts as a client for. Same thing for the actions. So again, let's just focus on the publishers and subscribers between these 2 nodes. So here, the important one is, maybe we start with the one in the bottom because it's going to make more sense. So for the teleop turtle, it subscribes to a message or topic called parameter event, and it publishes to a bunch of topics, but the one important one here is this something called actually these are the name of the topics, not these. This is what type of message is in the topic. So the name of the topic is basically command velocity. So these are the names of the topics here. So this node publishes some data on the topic called command velocity, and the type of data that it publishes is of this type. So it's basically taking the information that you are sending through the keyboard keys, and it is then publishing that information on the topic called command velocity. And then this node, the other node, is going to listen to this topic. So it's basically going to subscribe to the topic called command velocity, which as we can see here, and it is going to get the information from here and do whatever it needs to do with that information. In this case, it's basically moving the robot around in the simulator. So this is just an example to show you the relationship between 2 nodes. So this is one way to introspect, but there is actually a simpler way. So let me just clear this out, and we can also clear this out. So there's actually a better way to get the relationship between the ROS2 nodes. So as you can imagine, right now we are dealing with a very simple system. We only have 2 nodes running, but if you have a complex robotic system, you can have many nodes running at the same time. So if you want to know the relationship between different nodes, you can actually use a graphical user interface called RQT graph. By the way, in order to use this, you actually have to first install a package for RQT, and you can see in the tutorial, in one of the tutorials, probably this one, they actually tell you the package name and how to install it. So once you have installed that package, then you would get this GUI. So in order to run this GUI, you will just say RQT graph, which will give us a graph which we call a ROS graph. Okay, let's see. I think we can just hide it now. Okay, so this is a ROS2 graph, or in this case, we can also call it node graph. So it's going to give you the information on how the ROS2 nodes are connected, how they're communicating, on which topics. So in this case, we have two nodes running. As we saw, we had two nodes. One was called turtle sim and the other node was called tally up turtle. And these two nodes are communicating through, in this case, it's showing that you have a communication on this topic called command velocity. So this node is publishing some data on the topic called command velocity. So it's called a publisher in this case. And this node is the one that is listening to the topic called command velocity, and it is subscribing to that topic. And you can see here a few other things associated with actions, which we haven't covered yet, so you can ignore that for now. But this is just a neat way to understand what's happening in your complex system of nodes. Okay, let's close this out. Okay, so that's really it. Now, if you want to close or terminate the nodes, what you have to do is you actually have to use Control C. This will close your node, and you can see Control C, close your node. So that's really it. So today, basically, we just got introduction to what packages, what nodes are, how to start a node or run a node, and then we also got to see how the nodes communicate with each other. Again, there are three different interface types: topics, services, and actions, but today we mainly covered topics. If we go back to the tutorials and try to correlate what we learned and what is in these tutorials, so let's do that. So here we went through this tutorial. Basically, there is a little bit more than what I shared. For example, in this tutorial, they will also show you how to use a graphical user interface to execute some service. We will cover that in the future lectures. And then also they talk about remapping. We will also cover this in the future lectures. And then if we go to this one, understanding nodes, so we learned about ROS graph, and then we learned about how to run a node, how to get a list of node, how to get more information about node. Again, we haven't done remapping. We'll do that. Also, we studied the topics. So basically, what are topics and how and what's related to the topics, such as publishers, subscribers, and then we saw the RQT graph, how to get a list of. I don't think I showed you this, but again, this is just a handy command that you can use to see a list of topics that are currently, running in your system. So when you have in our previous example, you had two nodes that were running. So if you want to know, similar to the command called ROS2 node list, which gave us a list of commands, if you want to know a list of topics that are being sent and listened on, then you can just also use ROS2 topic list here. So you have done all that. We didn't really cover things like echo or how to publish on a topic. All of that you can walk through this tutorial, and you will learn more about topics. Basically, that's all for today's video. In the next lectures, we are going to get deeper, and we are going to learn about other ways to have communication between nodes. So basically, we're going to learn about services, we're going to learn about actions. There's actually one really important thing that we didn't cover today, which is about discovery of the nodes. So now there are two nodes that we saw today. One was publishing some data, the other was subscribing to that data. But how do these nodes actually discover each other? So that we didn't really cover today, and that's a whole different lecture. We are going to go into the details about that. So I'm going to leave that for now, and we will conclude here. I hope you learned something new, and I encourage you to check these tutorials on the ROS website for sure to learn more about nodes. That's all for today's lecture. I will see you in the next one. Thank you.